Hello everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's MTPredictor video, I'd like to take a look at cryptocurrencies, and in particular Bitcoin. In the latest MTPredictor version, we've now added support for cryptocurrencies using the bar chart data feed. But as usual, let's start with our risk disclaimer and remind you that all examples in these videos should be considered as hypothetical. No trades are actually taken, they're just shown for illustration and trading purposes only. Remind you there's a risk of loss in trading and investing. This is very important, particularly with cryptocurrencies because they're very volatile. So remind you that there's always a risk of loss in trading and investing. Or put another way, all professional traders know and understand, and more importantly, accept that losses can and will and do unfold. Right, let's move over to MTPredictor. So this is our latest MTPredictor version 8, and in this we've added support for cryptocurrencies using our bar chart data feed. We have a symbol list of cryptocurrencies, and here you can see I've loaded these in on a daily time frame, and here you can see we get our normal MTPredictor trade setups. So I'll just take the scanner out of the way there and have a look at Bitcoin. You see Bitcoin's come down from $20,000 by about a 50% retracement down into about the $10,000 area, where now we're getting a potential TS3 buy setup. So it'll be very interesting to see whether this does provide to be a low and Bitcoin rallies. If it does, well then it could be a good buying opportunity, but we'll have to wait and see. But one thing we've done in MTPredictor is, if I go to Tools, Accounts and Risk, under our Forex trading section, because cryptocurrencies are basically a special form of Forex, basically we've added a custom selection in here. So rather than trading Forex, which we're normally used to, where we have standard mini or micro lots or none to show the base currency, in this custom section you can now do our position sizing in custom lots. So rather than trading just the single Bitcoin, you can trade in fractions of Bitcoin in this example. So if I here select 0.01 and then do OK, what this allows you to do is, if I right mouse click here and do our analysis, you can see it's telling you for a risk of less than 2% of a sample $20,000 account to trade 0.1 of a Bitcoin, and there's your dollar risk there. We'll show you some smaller setups here a bit later on. So let's have a look at some other time frames. Remind you that we can use all our normal tools in MTPredictor. So I'm just going to do a right mouse click off this low and do a decision point. Remember, these are leading indicators, so they would have been on the chart in advance. So as Bitcoin was declining down for the last week or so, this would be an area of support. This was particularly important if I go down to our 8-hourly chart, and here you can see we actually had a lovely holy grail trade setup come in here. So if I right mouse click on this, do analysis, you can see our holy grail target is actually right the way down here, so a massive decline, but we've actually come into our decision point support on our higher time frame. So if I grab and drag the risk reward up to around this level, if you had been short up from this high here on 0.5 Bitcoin, then the profit would have been approximately 10R, or 10 times the initial risk. So that would have been a very good trade as well. So let's go down to some shorter time frames as well. As usual, let's place our DPs on the chart. So I want to place a DP off this pivot high here. Remember, this would have been on the chart in advance as the market was starting to rally up here. So this would have got you ready for this particular area for a potential reversal, which came in quite nicely. If I go down to the slightly shorter time frame, let's go down to a 4-hourly chart. You can see actually on the rally up here into that higher time frame resistance area, we actually had a TS3 buy setup. Our MTP trend was blue, indicating the large degree trend was up. So if I right mouse click over this blue buy bar, do the analysis, you can see here it would be telling you to go long 0.6 Bitcoin for a $378 risk, but there would be your trade up into that first target there for a potential 4.6R profit. The market then went into that decision point resistance area, then rolled over. You can see our MTP trend turned red, and then came down, and we actually got a TS3 sell set up here. Let's right mouse click over this red sell bar, do the analysis, and here you can see how the position sizing is working, because now for this initial risk, because the entry and stop levels are closer, it was telling you that you could short 1.2 Bitcoin for less than your $400 or 2% initial risk. Remember, you can change the account size as well. So if we have like a smaller account size here, it will again adjust the position sizing for you based on what account size you put into MTPredictor. That's great for you guys with smaller account sizes. And it's important that position sizing is used, because I don't think many people who are trading cryptocurrencies actually take account of risk. So it's important to make sure that when the losses come through, and they surely will, these losses are kept small. That's what position sizing does. But anyway, this would have been a nice trade here down into the first target. If you'd come out of that first target, the profit would have been approximately 6.8R. If you'd held it down into your lower time frame or higher time frame lower DP support zone, remember that would have been on the chart in advance, the profit would have been approximately 11R. So that would have been a very good trade as well. So far you can see that trading Bitcoin is exactly the same as we do with anything else in MTPredictor. The same tools work, the same approach works. We handle this in exactly the same way as if we were trading any other particular market in exactly the same way. Let's have a look at perhaps some shorter time frames as well, even shorter than 4 hours. Remember, this was our daily support zone. This is where we're anticipating potential support. So now if we go down to, say, a 15-minute chart, let's see what's happened off the support zone. This was a trade setup I really like the look of. Let's just try and move that. Just try to move this along a bit so it makes it a bit out of the way. Because what I want to show you what happened off this support zone. By the way, a nice TS1 sell going down into that support zone there. But what I liked off this support zone here was the rally off the low. So there was your higher time frame support coming in. The market rallied off the low into a 5-wave high. Remember, we wouldn't be looking to sell up here because the MTP trend was blue. But if I go up to here and right mouse click, you then do decision point. No, sorry, whoops, clear that off. You then do Elliott waves. And you can see that actually went up in a beautiful 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why was this so good? Well, one of the things we teach in MTPredictor is after a completed 5-wave sequence, the market then tends to retrace into the DP from the prior wave 4. So if I use our training mode and I jump back to here somewhere, you'd have placed the DP on from the prior wave 4, just like that. And can you see how that's on the chart in advance? It's there ready for you before the market even gets there. So as the market starts to decline, you're ready with this potential support zone. And then suddenly you get a TS4 buy setup. Our MTP trend is blue. But you see how that TS4 buy setup came in at our support zone we'd had on the chart already. So the whole lot was coming in really nicely as well, particularly as we had major support coming in here earlier. So we right mouse click, do analysis, and there's the potential trade setup, again using our correct position sizing. If I turn trading mode off, let's see what Bitcoin did. Well, it rallied up really nicely, hit that decision point level for a nice 6-hour profit. So again, all our MTPredictor tools that you've seen in all the other videos over the years, exactly the same approach is being applied with Bitcoin. This is Bitcoin against the US dollar. Exactly the same approach no matter what market and time frame. If we now clear off the chart, you can see we actually had another 5-wave sequence coming down into here. But this probably wouldn't have been a great long trade to take because our MTP trend was red, even though it did work out really nicely. If I do the analysis there, you see it did go up into the DP, which would have been the DP from the prior wave 4. So if you're a more experienced MTPredictor user, you may have wanted to consider that trade. That would have been good. But what I find interesting now is here we have on a red MTP trend is a holy grail sell setup. So let's have a closer look at this. So if I go out to the higher time frame, the 1-hour chart, and I place the DP on from this pivot high here, and also from the last swing into the low. Remember, we'll have a look at this, the last swing into the low. That's probably just slightly above that, but in and around the same area. So I'll just take that off to not confuse things. But here is our DP off the last swing of the high there on the higher time frame. So now when we go down to the 15-minute chart, there was our 5-wave sequence going down there. Do you remember that? There was our 5-wave sequence going down there. What's very interesting now is we've actually got a Holy Grail sell set up here. Our MTP trend is red on this 15-minute time frame. So if we right mouse click and do the analysis here, it'll be very interesting to see whether Bitcoin does indeed decline now into the 101 area here, down from 118, to see whether this is a Holy Grail trade, short trade here. Remember again, the position sizing is taking account of the initial risk. So if this trade was stopped out for a losing trade, the risk would be 1 risk unit, or the loss would be 1 risk unit. If Bitcoin gets down to this level, the profit would be approximately 11R. So this is a trade that's potentially unfolding at this particular moment in time. So this looks like to be a good setup on our 15-minute 1-hour combination. The only thing that I'm slightly wary about is because if we go out to the slightly higher time frame chart, do you remember we were coming off this daily low here? If I just take this off and do it again, there was our daily low from a while back. So there's major, in fact I'll do it off the daily chart so we all know where we are. So I'll just go back to the daily chart. So there's potential major daily support coming in at this particular low here. So that was the only thing that I think is probably slightly wary of this particular short trade setup, is because we had good support coming in here on the daily decision point. So the large degree trend on the daily decision point looks to be up. So any short trade now would have to go back and basically retest this support level. Not saying it can do it. We never know what the markets are going to do, but I'll say that's the only thing that probably is slightly wary about this particular short trade, is going against the potential long or the potential up trend on the daily chart. But anyway, we can come back to this in a week or so's time and see how this unfolds. But I just wanted to do this video today just to show you MTPredictor on cryptocurrencies, and in particular Bitcoin, and how we do exactly the same kind of analysis on Bitcoin as we have on any other market. And we've seen some very interesting setups here already. Let's say one of my favorites on the shorter time frame was this particular 5-wave advance into here, then the retracement into the DP of the wave 4, then the trade up into there, and then obviously on the slightly longer time frame as well, we had some very good setups coming in here as well. So interesting to see MTPredictor used on Bitcoin, and in particular how we use exactly the same approach to analysis as we do in any other market. So again, this is new in the latest version of MTPredictor 8, our standalone version, support for cryptocurrencies, and as you can see, we've had a look at Bitcoin in this particular video.